What's good everybody, it's Holmes, and today guys I'm coming to you with a brand new video. But before we get into that guys, please let's try and get 30 likes on this video guys, so go ahead and leave a like if you enjoy my content, and of course subscribe if you have not already, because we're trying to hit 7,000 subscribers, and once you hit it guys I will be able to announce the giveaway. Check out all the socials down below as well, all the links, follow all of them. So you have my Instagram, you have my Discord as well, and you have my Sleep Chief affiliate link where you can get 5% off. Anything that you guys give helps me in return. And of course guys, without further ado, let's get right into the video. Alright guys, so now we are going to start the video. So again, it's how to side deck for the 250th YCS, but it's going to be a little bit more than that. It's going to be an in-depth breakdown, kind of the decks you guys can pick and then the cards you can pick as well. Of course, the spreadsheet you will be looking at right now, it was available through Joshua Schmidt's YouTube video. It was created by Sebto360, so shout out to both of those guys. I'm pretty sure Sebto has a YouTube channel, so please go ahead and subscribe to Sebto as well guys. But again, the benefit to having this spreadsheet is you guys can see that it has all sorts of the weeks. So what we can do is we can analyze trends of those weeks and then kind of do a breakdown of what we are going to anticipate. Again, this format is a little weird because you guys can see that there's all sorts of decks up in the air. However, Kashtira is known to be the best deck of the format, so of course when you're building your side deck or main deck, you want to be able to have cards to almost counteract the Kashtira strategy, and hopefully they overlap, which I will explain again later on. So usually when it comes to side decking, I have three little rules. So the first rule I like to do is I like to have a total breakdown of the metagame and what I'm anticipating. The second one is going to find the best side deck cards for me personally, or just decks in general that kind of hinder them, and then how I can make those I guess cards you can say coincide with other cards and how I can make them overlap. Because again, you only have 15 cards to side deck, and you want those 15 cards to cover your strengths, your weaknesses, well not your strengths because I mean if it's covered you don't need it, your weaknesses, and then how they can overlap in other things. Because if you have like a 3 of card that only covers one matchup, you either have a very powerful main deck, or you probably might have been able to find something that could kind of, you know, have a little variety or a little sauce in that. But anyways guys, so starting off again, this is the initial breakdown that we had of the YCS in Las Vegas, and then again this is the top 8. So you guys can see here there's Kashtira first, Branded second, Labyrinth third, Sprite fourth, and Swordsoul fifth. So again, this was the first big event of the metagame. So this one people were thinking like, oh, you know what, Kashtira is by far the best deck of the format, so we will need to main deck our Book of Eclipses, our Book of Moons, our Nibirus, things of that nature, just because you didn't want to get locked out. This one they're doing like the lock 5 as well, if you guys remember, I believe from the live stream where they were just like locking out all the zones. We ended up seeing, I think, Dominic Couch doing against John Wilkin, which is pretty crazy. So that's when people thought that Nibiru was going to be good, right? But you guys can see, and you guys now know. So again, we have Kashtira first, Branded second, so that's where Ash Blossom was very popular. Labyrinth took the metagame by storm at that YCS as well, because there weren't a lot of sort of back row removal cards. Sprite, we always anticipated Sprite to be here. I believe that people anticipated Sprite to be the second best deck of the format actually, so being second here was kind of interesting. And then Swordsoul, Naturia, others, those cards were kind of known. But you guys can see as the kind of meta trend changes, you guys can see. So again, this is just based off of regional tops alone, so unfortunately it's not YCS, but this is just kind of picking decks. You guys can see that now there's another deck into the picture, which is Mathmech. Swordsoul and Naturia are still there, however Runic, Punk are still making shows. Again, regional tops are a little different, but regional tops is kind of what you want to look at for the 250th YCS, and the reason for it is, again, it's a special YCS, it's a very specific YCS, so it's 250th, so you have incentives to kind of sign up and play. Plus you want to be part of like Yu-Gi-Oh history, so that's why a lot of people are going. So you may be anticipating other rogue decks as well. So getting into the third week, this is kind of like the lull week where there weren't a lot, but you guys can see in the fourth week where YCS Lima was, you guys can see where it's kind of starting to shift now the metagame, right? So you guys can see we have Kashtira here, we have Sprite, we have Naturia, we have Eldritch, and we have 34% of other. So that's what the main thing is, right? The most represented deck in the top 32 was other, meaning that there's a vast majority of decks that you guys can pick from. So what we have to do is we have to kind of do a complete breakdown and kind of understand what decks are going to be good. So you guys can see here we have Sprite, Kashtira, there's a Salamangreat, there's Plunder, there's Labyrinth, there's Naturia, there's Flunder, there's Sun Avalon, there's all sorts of other decks as well. You have like Eldritch, Marincestors, Dragonlings, you have all sorts of other rogue decks, which makes siding for the 250th YCS difficult. But again, this is why I'm here, to showcase you guys how good it is. So again, we go into week 5 and we go into week 6, and you guys can see here now things are a little beginning to shift. So again, initially off of week 1, we had Kashtira, Branded, Labyrinth, Sprite, and Swordsoul as the top 5. You guys can see after YCS Lima, we had Kashtira, Sprite, Naturia, Eldritch, others, and unknown. So there's no Branded in here at all. Initially people said, oh, you know what, Ash Blossom is a must main that card because of Branded. Now there's no top, now in top 32 there's no branded at all. Ash Blossom very weird against Cashier, same with Sprite. Against Naturia, it's not bad, but again, with the runic cards, there's just so much they can do. Against Outlet, like, it's okay, I guess. But against Rogue, this is where Ash Blossom is very good because it has a lot of coverage. There are a lot of decks that either search, summon from deck, add from deck, things of that nature. So Ash Blossom does have little coverage in there, but again, and then moving on to week 6, you guys can understand. So week 1, again, like I said before, these were the top decks. And then going into week 5, we have Kashira, Sprite, Branded, Labyrinth, and Dragonlink. So again, now Sprite has just absolutely shot up from here, where Sprite was only, I believe, the 5th or 4th represented deck. Now it's going to be the second one. This is basically because of course, the dude who came first place was playing Adventure Sprite, and then same with the second place. But again, you guys can see, so now it's Kashira, which is by far the best deck. So now you guys need to understand, when you are siding or main decking, you need cards to out Kashira. However, the playstyle has adapted. They're no longer going for the big lock plays. They are going for Rise Star Pass, which a lot of people compare to Zodiac, and there's a lot of copium in playing a deck that's like quote-unquote Zodiac, because people think that it's a very nice deck to play, which of course it is, but it's not the same, definitely. But and then going into week 6, guys, you guys can see it's Kashira, Sprite, Mathmech, Branded, Labyrinth. So what I did, guys, and you guys see I have the dueling book tab open. What I did, guys, is I basically compiled all of the best decks that you guys will be anticipating. Again, shout out Joshua Smith and Sebto, more importantly, of kind of compiling this. I think when you do things like this for the Yu-Gi-Oh format and the metagame as well, just helps the community get a lot better. You can get the most competitive results as well, so you have the best way to kind of practice and adhere your strategy to kind of what you're expecting. But again, shout out to those guys. I have my dueling book open up, so the next thing we are going to do is we're going to break down all the best cards you guys can do, the best decks as well, and then kind of picking your poison and what you want to play with and against. Alright guys, so now we are getting into kind of like the best side deck cards and tech cards that you guys can kind of pick, and then the best decks as well. So what I did is I compiled a list of the top 5 decks, as you guys can see here, plus some rogue options as well. So in my opinion, I think the top 5 decks that you will be anticipating into YCS 250 will be, of course, Kashira, Branded, Labyrinth, Sprite, and then Naturia or Runic variants. So again, I think Naturia Runic is probably the most probable one you're gonna play against, but like again, Naturia Runic variants can also be the case. And then of course we have the rogue options that you guys should probably be prepared for. If not, it's okay, but you guys definitely should have these guys on your radar. So it's going to be Mathmech, it's going to be Swordsoul, Moyi deck, and it's going to be Trap Trick Sir. So again, I wish I could say Swordsoul was top 5, but it's not top 5 right now. But it's definitely a deck that you guys have to be prepared for. So again, so what we are going to do is we have a list, as you guys can see here, of all viable side deck cards or board breakers, in my opinion. Again, this does not count cards that you can main deck, or you can main deck these cards and just kind of sculpt your deck around it. So what we're going to do is we're going to break down each and every card, then we're going to talk about what card kind of fits into what scenario, and then which cards you guys should probably play. So again, starting off with Artifact Lancia. Lancia is a weird card for a couple instances. So for one, it's good, very good against Kashtira, but against Branded it doesn't do anything. Against Labyrinth it doesn't do anything. Against Sprite it doesn't really do anything. Against Runic it's not bad because you can technically Lancia them and they can't banish cards from top of your deck, meaning that they can't activate the cards because it's in conjunction with the effect. So it's a little weird. Like in my opinion, I don't think that you should be playing it, just because again, against Mathmech, Swordsoul, Moyi deck, and Trap Trick Sir, it doesn't really do much. So I think that in that regard, it's okay to forego the card. Ash Blossom, very good card, and the reason for that is that against Kashtira, it still has applications for sure. Being able to hit Theosis, Prosperity for 6, Unicorn effect, it's still very good in that regard. Against Aluber, of course, Branded Fusion is FTK if they don't have Called By. Against Lady, Lovely Labyrinth, you can Ash your trap cards, and negates the effects, meaning that the Field Soul cannot pop. Against Sprite, hitting Gigantic, Starter, things of that nature is very good. Against Runic Fountain, that's the only one where it's a little weird, but like ashing Mole Cricket is like super powerful in that regard. So of course, Ash is very good there. And then here against Mathmech, it's not bad. Like you have Mining, you have, I think it's Circular, yeah, the one I have. Circular is not bad. Against Swordsoul, it's a little bad. Against Trap Tricks, it's very good on the Link monster. So Ash Blossom is a viable choice. So what I would do is personally, I would move Ash Blossom down here, and I'd be like, you know what, Ash checks all the boxes. It's a very good card. It has good rogue synergy as well, which is the most important thing. So against Outledge, things of that nature is very good. So I'd move Ash Blossom up the ranks. And basically, I always do this almost always. And then again, we look at the Bestials. So Bestials against Kashira, it's not good. Against Branded, it's actually pretty good, especially against the Expulsion lock. They're not always setting up a Mercurial negate or banishing both targets, so it's very good in that regard. Against Labyrinth, it's like 50-50. You technically don't really want it, But again, I guess technically you can bitch shield the targets in the graveyard. Against Sprite, it's okay. So against Sprite, it's a little weird, and honestly I think it's not bad because it puts a big body on board, and Magma essentially gets you Druid Swarm, and when you can drop Druid Swarm, it forces them to deal with a lot of things, especially because you get the monsters on board pre-Newman, pre-Toad Negate, so you can still kind of deal with Newman in that regard. So I think Bestials may go up in price, or not in price, may go up in popularity. Again, against Nibiru Runic, they're not really played. Against Mathmech, this card is an FTK. Against Moyu deck, it's okay, and against Trap deck, it's okay. What I would do is I would move Bestial here still, just because I feel like it's a good card if your deck can definitely play it. Again, Swordsoul can't really play it. I believe that the Labyrinth cards lock you into Fiends as well, if I'm not mistaken, so it's not really playable in that regard. But again, playing it in main deck, it's probably not the best to do in my opinion, just because again it has no application against Kashtira, and as we were seeing, I believe in the most recent one, you're seeing 22% Kashtira, you're seeing 30% Kashtira, you're seeing 28% Kashtira. This one doesn't even have one. You're seeing 26% Kashtira. So for the most part, if you're anticipating a lot of Kashtira, main decking Bestials isn't the best, siding for sure. Again, Contact C is not that bad, so we have Contact C for Kashtira, and the reason for it is when they special summon monster, you drop Contact C, they have to link summon into Dawn or Dagger initially, meaning that they can't do anything, and dropping Kashtira or dropping Contact C onto Theosis and Rise Artifact is very good because they get locked into XYZ summoning, so once you drop Contact C onto their field, they cannot play. Against Branded, it's very good. Again, against Branded, it's a little interesting because they can still make Sprint. I haven't seen lists on Sprint or Dagger, but again, it is something to note for sure. Against Labyrinth, nothing. Against Sprite, I mean, they just link the monster away into a link 2. And against Nibiru Runic, it's like fine, but I mean, you're giving them a 6 and they can synchro into a 10, so there's a little 50-50 in that. Contact C is not that bad of a card though, in my opinion. I think that moving it here, it's a little better than, actually I would say it's definitely not better than the Bestials. But then moving on, again, we have D-Shifter. Now D-Shifter is going to see a lot more meta play in my opinion. The reason why I say that is because if a lot of people are getting away from the control variant and they're going to like the full combo variant, I think Kashtira will be siding in D-Shifter post side because it's one of the only decks that can play D-Shifter. And you guys can see here, every deck gets hit by D-Shifter, no matter what you guys are talking about, especially against Runic. They lose all their cards. That card's absolutely insane. So I think D-Shifter is going to be another card. Again, it is very niche. Not every deck can play it. As you guys can see here, I think only 2 decks can play it technically, which is going to be Fenrir deck and Trapchick Sarah deck. So in that regard, I think that D-Shifter is Droll, it's a little good. So Droll against Cash is very good. Droll against Jester Despia deck is going to be okay. Again, they don't really search too much, but depending on if you main deck in, you hit them at a right spot, it's very good. Against Labyrinth, forget about it. Against Sprite deck, it might not be that bad, like Runic Sprite, it might not be that bad. Adventure Sprite, pretty good as well. Similar to this deck also because it prevents their draws. It turns off a lot of things in that regard, so it's not bad. Against Mathmech, Swordsoul, and Traptic Stare, it's not that bad, it's not that good either. But Droll is definitely a card that I would move here because I think it's a pretty good card. Matter of fact, let me put Fake Traps here to go ahead and block it, and I'll just use 1 Fake Trap for the rogues, just because I think that's pretty good. Actually, yeah, let me just get rid of this. And then yeah, so Effect Veiler is going to be a good card. Effect Veiler is just a good card through and through. So again, against Cashier card is very good. Against Aluber it's good. Lubellion it's good. Against Ariana it's even good as well. Against the Sprite card it's pretty good on Gigantic. Against all the Runic monsters it's good as well. So Veiler is just always just a solid card. Main decking it, I think Veiler is probably better than Contact C in my opinion. I think Droll is here. I would say this, like this, and put Droll here. I think this is probably the best thing you'd be looking at right now. Kaiju is very good, and the reason why I say Kaiju is very good is, again, if people are still on the Arise Art pass, Kaiju just FTK, right? Just outs the entire monster. Against this card, it's okay. I mean, I guess Kaiju and Mirror Jade is pretty good. Against Labyrinth, it's not good. Sprite and these guys, it's technically good against the Toad, because it helps you out a monster. Against Runic, again, I guess there's ways to play it. Main decking the Kaiju isn't too bad in my opinion. Ghost Bell is very good, and the reason why I say Ghost Bell is very good is it covers a lot of the decks that are almost unplayable to deal against. So basically, Brand Expulsion Lock is very good, and in the same vein, Magma is very good as well. So I think in my opinion, Bell is pretty good. Again, Bell stops Runic Fountain draw. It stops a lot of other plays as well. So I think Bell is pretty good. Again, against the rogue cards, it's a rogue deck's not that good apart from Mathmech. So I would say that Bell is here. Moving around the cards, and actually I'm just not even gonna do this. Moving around the cards in kind of tiers is going to be a little annoying on Dueling Book. So what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna leave it as this, and then you guys will basically be able to decide for yourselves. I think Mourner is also an applicable card. I think Catcher is one of the only decks that can play Mourner. just because I feel like the other decks playing Mourner is going to be a little troll. They're better cards to play. They just like to play Mourner because it says, I'm pretty sure this card doesn't have to hit the graveyard, right? It says you can just discard this card. Yeah, so it's like Ash Blossom in that sense, where it says you can discard this card instead of, for example, Veiler, where it says you have to send this card from the hand to the graveyard. So Mourner can basically act under a Riser, which a lot of the decks are going a Riser past, so it's pretty good. Kurikara, it's not bad. I mean, you can basically, Kurikara says this: you have to tribute all face-up monsters on the field that activated their effects this turn, gains 1500 for each monster attributed special on this card. During the end phase, you can reborn one of the cards, so it's not bad. Again, like I'm saying before, is if they're not making the big boards, Kurikara loses out in popularity, much like Lava Golem does in that regard, much like Nibiru does. But you can technically Giga Brain 5-head strategy your opponent, because if your opponent, and if a lot of people are saying that, oh, you know what, I'm just going to do a Riser Pass, of course, there's going to be that handful of players who say, you know what, if people are no longer on Lava Golems, Nibs, Fear Modes, Kurikaras, things of that nature, why don't I just do the big negate? Why don't I just do the big lock? So then again, main deck Nibiru is going to be pretty good in that regard. The reason why I like Gamsteel more than anything is Gamsteel can guarantee out a monster, whereas Nibiru is not a guarantee out. In my opinion, I think that Nibiru is going to be pretty good in the 250th YCS, being able to cover all sorts of boxes. I think this card is probably one of the must to have in the deck. Again, when it's a must, I'll start getting rid of them as we go on. So Gamma is a very good card because Gamma is super effective Veiler against Sprite because it gets the monster off board. Against Cashier, it gets the monster off board, which sucks, but I mean, you can technically Gamma and a Rise Heart. Gamming Yugituber is very powerful in that regard. Against these guys, it's okay. Like, you definitely don't keep it in. Sprite, like I said before, is very good. Mole Cricket deck, it's fine. Mathmech is good because, again, Hard Negate destroys. Swordsoul is good because Hard Negate destroys. Trap Tricks, again, I think it's pretty good because it Hard Negates and destroys and gets the monster off the board. Unless they specifically have Arachna Campo, they cannot play if you Gamma their board. Like I was saying, Force Fear Mode is going to be in the same category as Lava Golem and Kurikara, where like people aren't really going for the big boards, they're going for whatever, so it might be a little good. I think Lava Golem might be a little better, but again, Lava Golem is not as generic as Nibiru because Lava Golem, it prevents you from normaling. So if you have a deck, for example, like a Yugituber deck, like for Sprite decks, things of that nature, I think that the normal is a lot more important. So I think that Lava Golem is not as viable. And then again, we have all the books. Lunar Eclipse, of course, is probably one of the worst ones out of the books, but again, it's still an option. I think main decking Book of Moon is probably the play right now currently, just because Eclipse loses to Ash Blossom. Again, ignore that, but Book of Moon basically can just out one monster, so trading 1-for-1 is very powerful in this format, especially non-engined. But I think Book of Eclipse being a pseudo board breaker in a sense, flipping all the monsters face down, is very good as well, especially because you can, this basically Book of Eclipse forces a Toad Negate, which is pretty crazy. Book of Moon forces a Toad Negate as well, so it stops the Newman plays as well, which is really nice. Similar with these cards as well, like it's very good against Kashtira. It's an FTA against Kashtira. Against a Yugituber deck, it's very good as well. The reason I was gonna say Book of Moon is a little better than Book of Eclipse is a little better than Book of Moon is if you go first or second against Fenrir. If you go like special Fenrir, special another monster, you Book of Eclipse both monsters, is pretty good. I'm pretty sure it works in the same way with the Osis, where if the monster is face down on resolution, it can't read. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course, but I think that's how it works. Because like if you black out the monsters, they can't read, so I think it might be. But again, books are very good in my opinion. I think Change Heart is going to be a good card if you can always side deck just like one of going second. Change Heart is very good, just being able to steal a monster and playing. In Cashier, it's a lot better than any other decks because you can just take their monster and play with the monsters, so it's really good. I think Cosmic Cyclone is going to be a must side deck in my opinion. So Cosmic outs with Birth, which you're definitely not siding it for this. The reason why you're trading in Cyclone is it trades 1-for-1 with a lot of problematic cards, so if you have a lot of cards to side in, so being able to Cosmic Cyclone Birth is very powerful because it gets rid of the card completely. Labyrinth is very good, especially when they have Heavenly Prison up. Sprites, it's okay. I mean, it forces a lot of things. Against Nibiru Runic, it outs the Fountain, so what I like to do is, I don't know what just happened there. What I like to do is I like to wait for Runic to commit, and then I can just Cyclone their card. They can no longer draw in that regard, so again, it's pretty good. And then against these cards, it's like okay, but again, against Runic, it has good coverage. I think that Cosmic Cyclone should be for sure a main deck, if not side deck card, or a side deck card, sorry. Dark Ruler, it's seen popularity because people are ending on like bigger boards now, especially against Adventure Sprite is very powerful. Against Cashier Fenrir is very good as well. Against Desperate, it's not bad, but I mean, if they're expulsion locking you, you're pretty much screwed in that regard. And then against these decks, it's very powerful. So again, I think it's very good. I think Forbidden Chalice and much like Forbidden Lance are going to be very popular cards as well, because Chalice falls in the same category as Book of Moon, where it's trading 1-for-1, which is very powerful. And then Lance, essentially, is the reason why people got off of Book of Moons and Eclipses, because Lance can trade. rate, so you'd rather have monster removal instead of spell and trap removal. But like I said before, YCS 250 is going to be one big 5-head metagame where the decks that top are going to be decks that either don't care about Nibiru, don't care about the books, and just kind of push through everything, or just play around it completely. So you have to 5-head your opponent definitely in this current metagame. And then again, Harpy's Feather Duster, very powerful card, helps you out a lot of cards, especially helps you out Labyrinth and Trap decks, to name a few. Again, other decks kind of do side back row removal. They, like, I know Dark World side skill drain, so it's pretty problematic in that regard. Lightning Storm, it's kind of falling out of favor, and the reason for that is, like I said before, these decks have Lord of Heavenly Prison, this deck has Arachnicampa, and then on top of that, as well as Cashier is getting Goliath to protect from destruction, so there's that regard as well. So again, it's kind of falling out of favor because they will be having cards to deal with Lightning Storm, but again, it's still a powerful card. Talents and Thrust, in my opinion, are going to be very good cards. I think Thrust, because just going second, just having the kind of generic synergy is very powerful to get any of your power spells, especially if you're playing a deck like, let's say, for example, Cashier, where if they stop your play with some sort of Nibiru or something, you can almost push through it, grabbing a Theosis, terraforming, stuff like that. I think that Talents is going to be a really good card as well, hand in hand with Thrust. So we see a lot of people going like 2 Thrusts, 1 Talents, or like double Talents, 1 Thrust, because you just go Thrust, add the Talents, activate Talents, draw 2 cards, and keep playing from there. So I think that Thrust is going to be really good. Lightning Storm is kind of similar to Dark Hole, where they're siding Goliath, or not siding Goliath, but they're getting Goliath. Of course, they need to open pot to get it, but there's still ways for them to kind of play around it. So that's why, in my opinion, I think that Dark Hole is okay. I think Dark Hole is better than Lightning Storm, just because it can out the Expulsion Lock. It outs a lot of other negate boards as well, so it's really powerful in that regard. D-Barrier is probably, I would say, a must-side deck, in my opinion, if you can play it, just because it stops XYZs, stops fusions, stops XYZs, whatever this deck does, like stop synchros, stops XYZs. You guys can see that D-Barrier is a very powerful card, so I'll definitely move D-Barrier up, but I think that D-Barrier must be sided, in my opinion. If not must be sided, it's probably like a 95% chance you're going to side deck this card or see this card against you. Even match, 100% must side. This card blows backs of literally every single deck in the metagame. Big Cashier boards, they lose it. Aluber deck, they lose it. Of course, they have Brandon Red, so again, it's a little weird, but they still lose it. Labyrinth, they lose it. Sprite, they lose it. They lose it. You guys can see they literally lose everything. So Evenly is absolutely cracked in this current metagame. Imperm, again, it's very good as well. The 2 main deck hand traps I would definitely suggest this current format are going to be Ash Blossom and Imperm. You can make a meta call for Droll if you want, or Veiler, but I think that Ash and Imperm are just way too good right now. They just cover so many things and so many aspects, so I think it's really good. I think Appointers probably should be a 100% main deck card, because if you are relying a lot on non-engine, that means your opponent is also. So being able to Appointer, look at our opponent's hand, rip out non-engine or rip out engine and make them play with non-engine is going to be very powerful, especially when decks are going to 12 to 15. There's a chance that they see too much engine or too much non-engine, so you rip whatever you want and then you can play around it. What I like to do is, again, you take the starters out of their deck if they can. So if they have an Emergence plus a bunch of board breakers, you take out Emergence. If they have a bunch of board breakers, or if they have only 1 board breaker plus the starters, take out the board breaker, play around the other cards as well. So I think that Appointer is going to be very good. It's pretty good. Why they did it, I can't believe I just got rid of that card, but yeah, so I think Appointer is pretty good. In that regard, let me just leave this here because I think that it looks ugly. So Appointer's pretty good. Magic Deflector is a card that will see metagame play as well, going first, because it says negate all equip, field, continuous, and quick play spell effects on the field. So 1 Magic Deflector is very good because it stops the forbidden cards, it stops the book cards, cyclones, things of that nature. It also turns off field spells, so it turns off Runic Fountain. Magic Deflector is an FTK against Runic. Like, they literally can't play. During the turn you flip this card, they can't play. What I like to do is, personally, is because they don't really have a lot of consistent outs to back row, depending on when Runic is going to play, you can flip Magic Deflector during your own turn, and then it stops them playing the game, literally, because that's the best way to play. Stops all their cards. Magic Deflector is definitely going to see metagame play if you definitely can play it. Again, these are go first cards, but again, you can still play them. Anti-spell in a similar order, where it, like, if you can play it, you play it for sure. Like, Cashier probably isn't going to play it. I think that Labyrinth is going to play it, and I think that Swordsoul is for sure going to play it as well. So I think Anti-spell is very good. In the same vein, Eradicator. So Eradicator, I'm pretty sure Despia can play it pretty well. Labyrinth can also play it pretty well as well. Technically, you can make like a Draco Berserker with this card to nuke our opponent's board. Or no, it's, yeah, you can use Draco Berserker. I thought it was defense for some reason. But Eradicator is very good because, again, wipes the board of all spell and trap cards, which, again, like I said before, are going to be non-engine cards. I think that Grave of the Super Ancient Organism might see play because, again, against Despia and against Cashier, it's very powerful. Level 6 or higher special monster on the field cannot declare nor activate their effects, which is going to be very, very good. Again, even against Swordsoul is very good. So I think that this is another card that you should look out for, where it's like almost a pseudo skill drain in some aspects, so it's really good. And then, of course, we have everything else to round up. And then now what I'm basically going to do is I'm just going to do a super quick mock side deck if I was to play Swordsoul. So basically, if I was to play Swordsoul into the upcoming YCS 250, what I would do is I would probably side I would say outside double bell. Again, this is like a super fast one. I do double bell. I would do triple evenly match. I'd probably do double cyclone. So let's do cyclones. I'd probably do double cyclone. I would probably do kaijus as well. What I like to do is I like to do double this and mystery dust. You can technically do Kumongous. Let's do Kumongous actually. So I'll do Kumongous as well. I think alternatively what we also can do is I would want to side a pointer for sure, just because Swordsoul struggles because there's a lot of cards that sort of come into the metagame against Swordsoul. I just realized that I have to get rid of these cards. So I'll get rid of Cyclone as well, and I'll just play my third evenly, and I'll play my third Cyclone as well. So I'll do my third Cyclone. I'll do this as well. Again, this is in anticipation for, actually, I'll put Duster here over that. So now you have a good back row coverage. And then I think the next thing we can do is we can do double D barrier. So barrier. Dimensional barrier. And I think the last card we could probably pick is going to be... yeah, I think we'll just play the third D barrier and call it a day. So basically, what I'm doing is I'm trying to break down all the cards that I was just looking at, and then finding the reasons why I kind of need to play against these cards. Again, my main deck is going to be different as well, but like what I'm seeing is like I'm seeing like, okay, you know what, I'm going to main deck Ash, I'm going to main deck Imperm, so those cards are gone. I'm not going to play Lancia. Bishops are a little weird against Swordsoul, similar to Contact C and D Shifter. I think that I can't play Mourner, Kurikara, Lava Golem, or Sphere Mode as well, so it's a little interesting. Lunar Eclipse sucks. Change of Heart's okay. I think that these cards are pretty good. Lance you're not going to play, same with Lightning Storm. I think that Eradicator, Super Ancient Organisms also. So once you break it down like this, you kind of have a general idea of what you're going to be playing. I think Gamma's not bad, but I wouldn't be siding it. So now I can look at the cards I want to main deck. So again, I main deck Nib, I main deck the books as well. So you guys can see that it slowly starts to get cut down. So not Anti-Spell, not Magic Deflector. Talents and Thrusting you can main, so I would move these cards to the side. Similar to this, not Dark Ruler, I would keep Dark Hole, get rid of the Kaijus completely. And then basically, you guys can see how I quickly just made a quick mock side deck, and I can break down what I want to play against. So again, Kaiju gives me problematic monster removal, Floodgate monster removal, Riser monster removal, so it's very good in that regard. Then we have double Ghost Bell to kind of deal with the Expulsion Lock, and on top of that as well, I main deck a bunch of hand traps, so I can deal with it in that regard. So Cyclones, Feather Dusters, and Eevlees are just generic back row removal. I think Duster technically you can get rid of, so you can technically get rid of Duster, and you can play the third Bell. If you're that afraid of the Expulsion Lock. And then we have the double Cyclones again against all sorts of other decks, a Pointer and D-Barriers to go first, and the Evening Match to go second. So again guys, that was just like a quick mock side deck like I was showing you before, using my logic and again using the data that was provided through Septo. So shout out to Septo as well guys. But my name's Hamza. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video, and hopefully I helped you guys prepare very last second for YCS 250. So guys, that was it for the end of the video. If you guys liked the video, go and leave a like, subscribe of course if you made it to the end of the video and you are not yet subscribed, because what are you doing? Support my content guys. Hopefully you guys have the best of luck at YCS 250. If you do a great job, make sure to shout me out because I'm a genius. Again guys, my name's Hamza, and like I always say, keep on shining everywhere in dreams. Peace.